Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa kafa. As-salatu was-salamu ala habibil Mustafa wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ahli at-tuqa wal-wafa. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Dear sisters, my companions in our journey in the quest of learning the Quran, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I welcome you all to Qaim on this beautiful Monday evening again after a break of 2 days. May Allah make this gathering of ours filled with barakah and grant us the understanding of the verses of the Quran, inshaAllah. Today, bi'idhnillah, we will be learning ayah 233 and 234 of Surah Al-Baqarah, bi'idhnillah. So this is the recitation. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والوالدات يرضعن أولادهن حولين كاملين لمن أراد أن يتم الرضاعة وعلى المولود له رزقهن وكسوتهن بالمعروف لا تكلف نفس إلا وسعها لا تضار والدة بولدها ولا مولود له بولده وعلى الوارث مثل ذلك فإن أراد فصالا عن تراض منهما وتشاور فلا جناح عليهما وإن أردتم أن تسترضعوا أولادكم فلا جناح عليكم إذا سلمتم ما آتيتم بالمعروف واتقوا الله واعلموا أن الله بما تعملون بصير. والذين يتوفون منكم ويذرون أزواجا يتربصن بأنفسهن 4 أشهر وعشرا فإذا بلغن أجلهن فلا جناح عليكم فيما فعلن في أنفسهن بالمعروف والله بما تعملون خبير. صدق الله العظيم. In the previous ayahs, we all know that we were discussing about talaq, the divorce, its rules in Sharia, how it happens, what are the ways, what are the rules to be followed, what are the magnanimity the couple who are going to separate from each other should show to each other. So many things were discussed, and even later it will be discussed further. So we should know that no religious book in the world, nor any constitution in the world has such profound details about the divorce. The marriage, the rules of marriage, the divorce, with minute details, covering everything with no confusion. No book in the world, no law in the world has, subhanallah. And we should be very, we should be grateful to Allah. We should be showing our gratitude to Allah, telling shukr to Allah that He has guided us through this Quran. So now in these ayahs, we'll be discussing about 2 things. Child care in broken home. That is when there is a divorce, if there is an infant, a divorced mother with an infant, what is the rule? How are they going to look after the infant? And then we will be talking a little about widows, and then inshallah tomorrow the thing about the widows will continue. So be present tomorrow so that you will know the continuation, the rules and regulations about widow and widow remarriage and all those things. So inshallah we will discuss ayah 233 first. I'll be fast going through the word meaning. Wal walidatu, and the mothers. Yurdi'na, shall suckle or shall breastfeed. Awladahunna, their children. Hawlaini, 2 years. Kamilain, complete. This is regarding the mother who is divorced. So we infer that it's not just for the mother who has divorced, but even after divorce, you have to breastfeed. That is the thing. Liman arada, liman, for whoever arada wishes an yutimma, that they complete arda'a, the breastfeeding. Wa'ala, and upon al-mawludi lahu. Al-mawludi lahu is the father. Al-mawlud is the one who is born, lahu, to whom he is born, to whom the child is born. So this is the father. Al-mawludi lahu here is the father. Rizquhunna, their provisions, that is the provision of the wife. Even after divorce, if the wife has an infant, then the provision, rizq. Wa kiswatuhunna, and her clothing, bil ma'ruf, in a fair manner, is the obligation of the father. La tukallafu nafsun, la tukallafu, it's not burdened, nafsun, any soul, illa, except usaha, what is its capacity. No one is burdened beyond his or her capacity. La tudar, they may not suffer, do not make them suffer. Al-walidat, the mother. Let the mother not make suffer biwalidiha, because not made to suffer because of her child. Wala mauludun lahu, neither the father should be made to suffer biwaladihi, because of his child. So either of them should not be made to suffer. Then wa'ala, and on al-warithi, the highs of the father. That if the father is not there, if the father is dies, and then the highs are the heirs are the ones who should take care. Mislu zalik, the same duty, the guardian of the child will be the eyes of the father, the waris of the father. Fa'in arada, then if arada means they both desire, the father and the mother, the parents desire, fisal and weaning, to stop the breastfeeding, okay, and taradim minhuma, with the consent, and taradim is the mutual consent, with the mutual consent, minhuma, both of them, okay. If the father and mother is there, the consent of father and mother. If the father is not there, the one who is the heir, the one who is the waris of the father, his consultation, okay, with that. What a showering and consultation, with the consent and the consultation of both the parents, they can, if they want to stop. We will learn about it later. Fala junaha, there is no blame, there is no sin, alayhima, on both of them if they stop. Wa'in arattum, wa'in, and if arattum, you want, the father, it's addressing the father, antastarbi'u, to ask another woman to breastfeed. In those days, there were women who were, the children were sent to the countryside where women would breastfeed them. If that is going to happen, if they have decided on that, then awladakum, your children, if you decide on your children to go for a nursing mother, fala junaha, and there is no alaykum, there is no sin on you, there is no blame on you. Either you can do that, either salamtum, provided you pay ma ataitum, the due, whatever you have fixed, you pay the mother bil ma'ruf, in a fair manner. Here ma'ruf is in a manner wherein it is just, and it is the custom of the period, custom of the culture and period. Wattaqullah, and fear Allah, wa'alamu, and know and know anna Allah, that Allah is bima ta'maluna, of what you do, basir, all seer. He sees of whatever you do. So a very important topic after the divorce, and everyone should know this topic. We need to be well versed about this. We need to be well versed about the divorce and this and that procedure also, because this becomes a hot topic, a burning topic, many a times. Okay, time and again it becomes a burning topic, and we don't have an answer. We need to have an answer. We need to know it profoundly. That is why these ayahs are there. We need to tell people that this is the most amicable solution that the Quran has given. If in case of the couple want, if in case the couple want to separate, and then what happens to children and all that, we need to know we need to be well versed about that. So let us see what is the explanation of this. Wal walidatu. Walida is the mother and walidatu is the mothers. This is the plural form of that. Yurdi'ana, they will suckle. That means they will breastfeed awladahunna, their children. Awlad is children, hunna is their, okay, their children. Hawlaini, hawl is a year, hawlain is 2 years. Kamilaini, completely 2 years. Okay, so a divorced mother continues to have this duty, which is God-given duty. Allah has ordained on her towards her infant. No matter the separation, she has to breastfeed her child. If she has an infant and a breastfeeding child, she needs to continue to breastfeed her child. This is Allah's mercy and compassion, that under no circumstance children should suffer. Whatever the circumstances, children should not suffer, the infant should not suffer. And we know the modern scientific research and so many things, and medical science shows that the mother's milk is essential and is the best food for the infant. Okay, and then Haulaini Kamilain, it's told 2 years for a healthy physical and psychological well-being of the child. Okay, the medical science has done so many researches and told that, but the Quran is revealed and then told us this so many years ago, that a mother should feed her child, breastfeed her child 2 years completely. 2 years completely is ideal. Okay, there must be reasons wherein she terminates it in between. That is some other case. But then she needs to make a niyyah of doing this for 2 years completely. Then this is a special case. A divorced woman, a divorced mother, now she is also asked. That means, naturally the mother should feed, but even the divorced mother should breastfeed her child. She can't refrain from that, and no one can stop her from doing that. The father cannot stop her from doing that. So that is the message in this ayah. Liman arada an yutimma rida. That means the ones who have made niyyah, or ones who have wished to complete, then 2 years is the time to complete the rida. The time period of breastfeeding is 2 years. Then Allah says, وَعَلَى الْمَوْلُودِ لَهُ رِزْقُهُنَّ. So as I told you, al-mawlud lahu is the father. Like al-mawlud is the one who is born, lahu, the one, like, because of whom he is born. That means it's the father. وَعَلَى الْمَوْلُودِ لَهُ رِزْقُهُنَّ. Now, this is a very important thing. When we talk about the financial, independence, financial rights of a woman in Islam, this comes in. Okay, she has a right of being taken care of, given provision, given clothing when even after divorce, if she is breastfeeding the child. It is the father's duty to provide her with the provisions, rizq, and the clothing. Bil ma'ruf, fair manner. Okay, why the fair manner is mentioned? Ma'ruf is, what is ma'ruf in our language? We say that which is known. That which is known to my family, how my family eats and how my family dresses. In the same way, how her family eats and how her family dresses up. So in that ma'ruf way, you need to provide her. Okay, so when the mother is asked to breastfeed even after divorce, then it is her right. She has secured this right. Allah has given her the right that the father must provide for her maintenance with fairness and goodwill. And as partners, it is their responsibility towards the infant. Within their respective means, within their respective framework, within the limits of a divorced couple, they are both responsible to take care of the child. So rights of women in depth you can see in these ayahs. Even after divorce, to take care of her, to not to keep her. So many ayahs previously you must have learned, not to keep her, just to trouble her. In depth and minute and very sensitive issues are discussed. Keeping the well-being of everyone intact. These, subhanallah, such beautiful verses, such beautiful rulings, which helps us, know that Allah has sent these ayahs, keeping the well-being of everyone intact, and everyone's rights are reserved and preserved. So, وَعَلَى الْمَوْلُودِ رِزْقُهُنَّ وَكِسْوَتُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. So the mother will get the maintenance and clothing for her during the time of her breastfeeding. Then Allah says this too. La tukallafu nafsun, la tukallafu, it's not burdened, nafsun, any soul, illa wus'aha, except for its capacity, more than its capacity. Okay, so respective means is important. Unnecessary burdens by society. We know that laws, when the laws are made, human-made laws, when the laws are made for women, keeping in mind the rights of women, then men suffer. We see in the society, when the laws are made keeping in mind the men, the women suffer. Okay, in both cases, the laws are misused. So many times we see divorces happens, and so much of amount is demanded, so much of harassment is done. In both sides it happens. When it is the divine law, no one suffers. Everyone gets their share. Everyone gets their rights. No one suffers. So we see modern day rules nowadays. What happens? The laws. Every time the laws are amended, when the law is amended for one party, the other party suffers. So this keeps happening. So Allah specifically mentions here that la tukallafu nafsun illa wus'aha. Whatever means, like father provides with the means which he can upon his capacity. He needs, by the end, like who will decide it? What is his capacity? He himself has to decide it. Okay, he himself has to fear Allah. That comes later. So, la tukallafu nafsun illa wus'aha. No one is burdened out of their capacity. This is not a burden. This is giving each other's rights. And then, la tudarra walidatum biwaladiha. La tudarra, not made to suffer. Okay, walidatun, the mother, biwaladiha, because of her child. The mother cannot be made to suffer because of her child. Wala mauludun lahu biwaladihi. Neither the father can be made to suffer because of the child. The child should not be used by either parent as a pretext to put pressure on each other. This happens so many times. Right, that thing is mentioned, and this thing happens. It's human psychology. This happens when there is a child. Then they use this child as a means to make each other suffer. They will know the weakness of each other, and they'll think that this child is the weakness of each other, and they'll make each other suffer because of this. Suffer physically, suffer mentally. Harassment. Everything happens. Keeping in mind this child. So this is specifically told that a mother will not be made to suffer because of a child, and the father will also not be made to suffer because of the child. We can see the hue and cry in society that all the laws and regulations are for women, so that's why men are suffering. Now you see how the Quran explains this, what rights are given, what justice is maintained here. So neither parent should resort to emotional blackmailing, okay, to make them agree upon something, to make concessions on what Allah has told, blackmailing each other, keeping the child in between, making use of this child for that sake, and separating the mother from the child, not letting her breastfeed, or putting full pressure on the father for threatening of going to the police, and showing him the laws and all those things. So these things Allah has ordained, and He has specifically told that each other will not made to suffer because of the child. Then it continues. Suppose the child's father dies. during this course, what will happen? وَعَلَى الْوَارِثِ مِثْلُ ذَلِكَ. The heirs, the ones who are the waris of the father will maintain this giving provision and giving kiswa, the clothing to the mother. Okay, and again we see, subhanallah, the beauty of Allah's laws. When it comes to the laws of inheritance, so many times people say that, why are the men given this share and women are given this share? Now you see, the men are liable to look after, a man dies and his waris will look after his wife, that man's wife, even after his death, the ones who are the inheritors. So the rules of inheritance also is so important. To know it also is very, very important. To divide it properly also is so important. So within the family, the family network, the family compassion, and everything is fulfilled in these ayahs. It is asked to be fulfilled in these ayahs. So he will take care of the waris the inheritor will take care of the mother of the child if the father dies. So in every situation, the rights of the mother and the child should be respected. That is the bottom line, what we learned from here. Then again, another rule comes, in arada. If you see, when you see this alif after ta, that means it's talking about both of them, both the parents. Okay. فَإِنْ أَرَادَ, if both of them desire, fisal and weaning, okay, stop from breastfeeding, and taradin, with mutual consent, minhuma, both of them, watashawarin, and consultation, okay, fala junaha alayhima, they can do it. So in between the 2 years, something happen, health reasons can happen, the mother may not be able to breastfeed, or something may happen. So father and mother of the child, or if the father is not there, the inheritor of the father jointly will decide if it serves the child's interest. Child's interest is important here. If it serves the child's interest to take him off from breastfeeding, then even before 2 years, you can do it. So when it is 2 years, okay, you stick to 2 years. Whatever happened, we can't, there is no excuse. That is not there. Even that is addressed here. So but it is, see, it is told antaradin, one's mutual consent, then tashawarin, enough consultation. So any act, it should be for the child's interest, in the child's interest, and then that can happen, that they stop breastfeeding. Then another rule is وَإِنْ أَرَدْتُمْ, and then if you want, أَنْ تَسْتَرْضِعُوا, maybe after weaning off from this mother, the father wants the child to again get breastfed, or something happens to the mother, any situation, if the father decides that the child should be breastfed further, or he can appoint someone, a nursing mother can be appointed. Antastardi'u awladakum, your children, when you want to do that, you can do it. Fala junaha alaykum, there is no blame. There are different aspects of the same thing. So if this happens, you can do this. If this happens, you can do this. Everything is clarified. Everything is clear. But then again, idha sallamtum, when you pay ma ataytum bil ma'ruf, whatever due is you have to give to this nursing mother, you have to give that. So there is an advantage, in those days, olden days, they used to feel that so many cultures it happens, they used to feel that child should go to the countryside and get nursed there and brought up there. So that even that thing is addressed. And paying in full, paying properly, whatever is due, again is in the interest of the child, so that the nurse takes care of the child well, doesn't deprive the child from emotional and psychological and physical care. So that is also ensured in the interest of the child. A small child, a small infant, how Allah makes us ensure the rights of the mother and the father and the child and everything. And most importantly, children here. Then by the end of the ayah, Allah says, "Wattaqullah," and fear Allah. See, now all these rules and regulations are mentioned. But then what will make me follow that? The taqwa, the fear of Allah, the consciousness that Allah is watching us. Only that can make me follow it properly. Otherwise, I can do all sorts of things to trouble each other, blackmail, and resort to violence and psychological, harassment and all those things. So, the main point here is wattaqullah, fear Allah, wa'alamu, and know and Allah, that Allah bima ta'maluna, what you do, basir. Allah is watching. Allah is watching each and every step of yours. Allah is watching whatever you're doing. So the guarantee of fairness here, maruf and maruf, so many times it came. The guarantee of fairness, the fair conduct will happen when a person fears Allah, when a person is conscious of Allah. So make sure that wattaqullah warns. This is like a warning that you need to be conscious of Allah. You need to fear Allah. You need to understand that thing. So this ayah, within this ayah, all these rules, all the possibilities as discussed in this particular ayah. So when we go to the next ayah, the next ayah talks about widows. Okay, you must have learned that there is a waiting period, iddah, for the ones who are divorced. The divorced women, iddah is 3 periods. You must have learned that before. So, or it comes later, I'm not sure. About it, I think it has it's 3 periods. But then, if a woman's husband dies, then what is her iddah? That is discussed in this ayah. So either وَالَّذِينَ يَتَوَفَّوْنَ مِنْكُمْ. وَالَّذِينَ, and those who يَتَوَفَّوْنَ, pass away, minkum, among you, وَيَذَرُونَ, and leave behind azwajan, wives. When someone dies and his wife remains, like wife is alive, yatarabbasna, they should wait. Yatarabbasna is the waiting period, bi anfusihinna, for themselves, waiting by themselves, arba'ata, 4 ashhurin, months, wa ashar, and 10 days. It's 4 months and 10 days. So, like in this surah, in these ayahs, Allah, the next ayah also, inshallah, tomorrow we will learn about that. Allah turns to introduce the rules of widows. So many times in every culture, time and again, from time immemorial, widows are always, they are not treated well by their own families, by the in-laws or their own families, and society in general also. They are not treated well. During the days of Jahala, Jahiliya time, even after that, in our culture, and we can see so many times, in those times, what they used to do is, they weren't giving enough food for the widow. They were not letting her wear, shabbiest, oldest of old clothes they used to give her to wear. Until a year, 1 year at least, they wouldn't let her, get out of the house, and they used to fix the time. Okay, and then once that period is over, whatever the society has fixed, then they would bring her out. They would meaningless rituals would be made, like she was asked to do some rituals. Her heads were shaved sometimes, and then during Jahala, she used to be put on donkeys and taken a parade all over the town and village. So many things, even maybe in olden days cultures here, even now maybe we can see all these things. Widows are mistreated. There are places in our country wherein widows are kept, widows are taken and left in that place, and very less food is given. They say that if they are fed well, they will have desires. So very less food is given, very mistreated. They will not be allowed to participate in any ceremonies. So many things, even these days, we can see that happens. So here there is a specific period of waiting. And after that, what happens also is very important. So, وَالَّذِينَ يَتَوَفَّوْنَ مِنْكُمْ وَيَذَرُونَ أَزْوَاجًا. The one who tawaffa is the one who dies. يَذَرُونَ أَزْوَاجًا, and there are wives behind, then they need to wait. For the waiting period is 4 months and 10 days. So then Allah says, فَإِذَا بَلَغْنَ أَجَلَهُنَّ, فَإِذَا, and then, and when, بَلَغْنَ, they will reach أَجَلَهُنَّ, that specified time, 4 months and 10 days. فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْكُمْ, then there is no blame, that is they are not to be blamed, or the society is not to be blamed. فِيمَا فَعَلْنَ فِي أَنفُسِهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, for whatever they do concerning themselves in a fair manner. That means them returning to normalcy, then them returning to a normal life is very normal. They should do that. That is what is taught. So Islam did away with all these worthless customs what were prevailing in the society. The suffering of widows were taken into, like, it was addressed. In addition, just imagine, in addition to the grief of losing her husband, she has to endure all these, problems and humiliations and persecutions, whatever the families and society does. So just imagine the plight of the widow. So this purpose of this waiting period, the 4 months and 10 days, there are so many things. One of them is to see if the woman is pregnant, or to avoid hurting her. It might be avoid hurting her feelings, hurting the feelings of her family, the family of her deceased husband, so that she doesn't leave home immediately after the husband dies. She waits for the period. So during this period, okay, we learn in Islam, the rulings of Islam is that the widow wears she wears modest clothes. She does not wear, she does not adorn herself with things that, adorns her. Usually when her husband was living, whatever she used to use to adorn herself and make herself more beautiful, she will not use those things. So once the waiting period is over, she is allowed to do all those things. Okay, we know that in Islam there is a dress code, and she has to, the Surah An-Nur says that she has to cover her adornment, whatever extra adornment she does, she needs to cover that. So that covering, everything should be done. But then among whoever she can show her adornment, she can do her adornment, she can do her, she can be beautiful, she can look beautiful, she can wear good clothes, she can be as normal as she was before the death of her husband and after waiting 4 months and 10 days. So this is what Islam erased all. There is nothing else, no other customs, no other rituals, nothing other than waiting for 4 months and 10 days with, without adorning herself. And another thing that will come in the next ayah, I will just tell one thing, is that then in these 4 months and 10 days, she is, the society or the family is not supposed to talk about her remarriage. After that, they can do. After the waiting period, they can do. Other than that, she's not asked to do any other rituals, and she's not tied up of anything. She's not deprived of any of her rights. After that, she's totally free to decide whatever she wants. She's totally free to decide that she's going to get married. She's free to put on her adornment. She's free to receive marriage proposals. She's free to give her consent to marry, or she's free to not give her consent to marry. So she doesn't have to fear the customs, and she doesn't have to fear anything else other than Allah. And Allah ends this ayah saying, Wallahu, and Allah, bima ta'amaluna khabir. In the previous ayah, it was Basir. Whatever you do, he sees. And here he says, whatever you do, he is aware. If the woman sitting for 4 months and 10 days, whatever she does, he is aware of. He knows whatever she does. So bottom line, what we see in all this ruling is Allah's fear of Allah, being conscious that Allah is watching, being conscious that I am accountable for my deeds and for my words. I am accountable for whatever I do in segregation, in seclusion. So these things are very important, and Allah ends this ayah by saying this. Just to give a gist of what we learned today, because there are so many things, I will just give a small, a gist of what we learned. In the first ayah that we learned today, that is 233rd ayah, we learned that divorced women should not be stopped from breastfeeding, and she should not stop breastfeeding. She should not be stopped and she should not stop. She has to continue her breastfeeding. One thing, breastfeeding mother should be given her tube. Okay, she is entitled to from the father to get her provision, her risk, and her clothing. She must be taken care of. That is thing. So, no causing harm, keeping the child, because of the child, either of the parents should not be caused any harm, no blackmailing and no harassment, because keeping the child, as a shield. Can choose to stop breastfeeding if there is reasons, with consultation and with mutual consent. Can hire someone else to breastfeed, giving her, that nursing mother, her wages. And then the ayah tells, fear Allah and Allah sees whatever you do. In the second ayah, 234th ayah, what we learned is, we learned about widows waiting period. And that even the divorce waiting period for the divorced woman, and waiting period for the person, for the woman whose husband has passed away. If they are pregnant, if the divorced woman is pregnant, and if the widow is pregnant, then their waiting period is till they give birth. At any circumstance, if the husband passes away and after a month the woman gives birth to a child, then her waiting period ends there. Same with the divorced woman. That is an exception of the rule. So widow, her waiting period and its rules, 4 months and 10 days, not more than that. You can keep her inside and not let her do her adornment, not more than that. It's up to her. She can either choose not to do, or she is free to do. She is free to be normal as before. She is free to take up the marriage proposal. She's free to remarry. She's free to not agree to marry. She's free to do all those things. And Allah ends the ayah saying, Allah knows whatever you do. So in today's class, whatever we learned, very sensitive issues, very important issues. People think, oh, these things are not important. These rules are not important. They can happen, whatever the society needs and whatever the culture is, whatever the family tells you can do. No, Allah has given these rules, set rules. We need to follow this. We need to fear Allah. May Allah help us follow, understand the rules and regulations, understand the Sharia of Allah, and help us follow it in our lives, and make, understand the rules, and, teach others about these rules, and make it clear to people who have misunderstandings. May Allah give us this ilm, and may Allah give us this tawfiq, and may Allah make our speeches clear to people whom we have to clarify these things. So, ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We can take up a few questions, inshallah, if you have some questions. Anything regarding today's classes, or maybe the previous classes? We need to understand these rules and regulations so much, so that we are well versed to tell people about it. Okay, the question is, what are the things prohibited while, Sister Sahla is asking this question. What are the things prohibited while women are in iddah? Can she cook her food, etc.? Meet the male relatives who comes to her. She can do all the housework. She doesn't need to confine herself to a room. Okay. She doesn't need to wear only white clothes. There are misconceptions in society. That's why I'm specifying that. She doesn't need to wear only white clothes. She needs to be dressed modestly. She